Hello, Mr. Souza. I'm Gwen.
Hi, it's Nikki.
Hi, I'm Tara.
Hey, it's Margot.
And we're doing our project on macromolecules. So first, what exactly is a macromolecule? A macromolecule is simply a big molecule made up of smaller molecules called monomers. The four kinds of macromolecules are proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids. So my portion was on proteins, and as you can see, the monomer of a protein is called an amino acid. Each amino acid is made up of an amino acid group in blue, a carbon group in black, carboxyl group in red, and an R group, which can vary from protein to protein and is in orange. Each amino acid is bonded together through a peptide bond, hence polypeptide chain, also known as an amino acid chain. This polypeptide chain is known as the primary structure. It is simply a bunch of amino acids bonded together. The secondary structure is how those different polypeptide chains are folded, either in a spiral or in a pleated sheet. Next, all the different types of secondary structures bond to each other to make a tertiary structure. Multiple of the tertiary structures together make a quaternary structure, and that is what makes a protein. Proteins have many different functions, which is why there is such a wide variety of them. These include anything from fluid and electrolyte balance to storage to working in antibodies as our body's defense mechanism. And now on to Tara for carbohydrates.
Thank you, Gwen. In contribution to the study of macromolecules, I did my research on carbohydrates heavily. I mean, who doesn't love some delicious carbs? You think carbs equals energy and boom, you understand carbohydrates. But they actually are pretty complex. Carbohydrates can be referred to as carbs, sugars, simple carbohydrates, and complex carbohydrates. Luckily enough, carbohydrates get the glory of having numerical prefixes before every saccharide. Through my explanation, feel free to follow along with my carbohydrates chart if you do get lost. The monomers of carbohydrates are referred to as monosaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest form of a sugar. The most popular monosaccharides by name are glucose, fructose, galactose, and even ribose. Simple carbohydrates include monosaccharides and disaccharides. These two are similar in the sense of primarily containing only the big name monosaccharides. After you start adding in 3 or more monosaccharides, the atoms start to get displaced and pretty complicated, hence complex carbohydrates. Polymer or complex forms of carbohydrates include disaccharides, trisaccharides, also known as oligosaccharides, and polysaccharides. The most common example of a polymer carbohydrate is lactose. Whether your reason for lactose knowledge is good or unfortunate, it's interesting to find out this is actually a carbohydrate since it is located in dairy, at least in my opinion. The functions of carbohydrates, no matter how many bonds, are versatile between humans and plants. Carbohydrates provide the energy needed for ATP in plants, photosynthesis, as well as cell structure. For humans, any carbohydrates ingested will be used as needed in the areas required while the body stores any leftovers in the muscles. Enough with all the boring carbohydrate talk. Let me pass you on to Nikki so she can educate you on lipids.
Hi, it's Nikki, and my part of the project discusses lipids. So there are different groups of lipids, and they are fats or triglycerides, phospholipids, and steroids. While fats and phospholipids are made up of glycerol and fatty acids, steroids are made up of 4 fused C rings. They are included in the lipid group since they are hydrophobic and insoluble in water. Lipids are also the only macromolecule that do not make polymers. The function of a lipid is to simply store energy, provide cushion to the body, and form cell membranes. Within the cell membrane are phospholipid bilayers, which are phospholipids bound together by the legs to create a border of some sort to allow things in and out of the cell. Now on to Margot with nucleic acids.
Nucleic acids are the final of the 4 major macromolecules. They consist of smaller molecular units called nucleotides. These include cytosine, guanine, adenine, and thymine. In RNA, uracil pairs with adenine in place of thymine. The nucleotides are linked to one another, forming the polymers DNA or RNA. Here we can see what the 5 nucleotides look like. They all have a negatively charged phosphate group and a pentose sugar. Their nitrogenous bases are unique to them though. These base pairs are then bonded together via hydrogen bonds, forming the double helix of DNA. While the structure of DNA and RNA differs, both polymers are responsible for creating, encoding, and storing biological information in our cells. The difference between the two falls in the pentose sugar. DNA stands for deoxyribose nucleic acid, meaning the ribose sugar has one less oxygen in it than that of RNA. Not to mention, DNA is double-stranded because the bases pair together, while RNA is only single-stranded. However, they both serve similar functions. And that sums up our crash course on macromolecules.